counterfactual recommendation to the person for the actions which he or she can take to get his or her loan approved. So let's start with our discussion. So please feel free at any time to interrupt me if you have any doubt in between. We have 24 participants, and I wish that everyone should able to understand each and everything which we are going to discuss in this session. So let's start with. Here again, we are discussing the same example about our stroke data set. You can see that here we have a stroke data set. We are using a black box model, and this black box model is making some predictions about stroke or no stroke. And here black box model is making prediction that yes, there is a 90% chance for getting stroke. Now, in this particular situation, we know that we can generate the explanations by using two approaches. You already familiar that we can use LIME and we can use SHAP. In case of LIME, we can tell that these are the attributes which are pushing the outputs towards no stroke, or these are the attributes which are pushing the output towards stroke. While in case of SHAP, we can provide contribution details about each important attribute. So here we can provide contribution of the attributes which are responsible to shift the output towards 0 or 1. Now, in case of LIME and SHAP explanations, we have one important concern that may be a concern for the developer of those AI systems. So I want to make it clear in the beginning that counterfactual actually used to solve two purposes. First, of course, it can be used to give counterfactual recommendation, but along with this, it also used to solve very important another purpose of AI developer. For example, you can see in case of LIME and SHAP, we are actually exposing our model to the public. We are making we are exposing our model so that end user can come to know that what are the attributes which are playing important role in deciding about the particular class, or what are the attributes which are responsible to decide it for a fake or real, or for example happy or positive or negative comment. So we are actually exposing our models by providing the details of all the features. And in real life situation, the developer who have invested so much energy in creating those resources does not want to make these feature importance model available to the public. Actually, this will expose their model. But it is also a legal obligation of those AI developer to explain it. But our explanation is completely based on feature importance, and these feature importance can be exploited by the person. For example, let's suppose I have a fake content identification system, and you know that in case of LIME and SHAP, I can provide important keywords which are responsible to identify this particular document as fake. Now, the knowledge of these keywords, which are responsible to identify it as fake document, can allow fake content creators to fool the system. So they, if they know that these keywords are important and this AI system is actually considering those important features, and whenever they detect that particular keyword, model is actually pushing it toward fake, so they can start avoiding those kind of keywords, and this way they can fool the system. Similarly, if a system, if end user know that in order to get the loan approved, these are the important attributes which is considered by the system. So anyway, defaulter can play with the system, and if everything we can make public, so easily we are exposing our AI model. So at this particular situation, AI developer was considering that is it possible that we can generate explanations without opening our black box or without providing the details about feature importance. So in this particular situation, counterfactual explanations proved helpful, and it is considered as an alternative technique that don't require opening of black box. And in this case, there is no need to understand the algorithm at all. And we can simply generate counterfactual explanations. And these counterfactual explanations actually helpful to the user from two different aspects. It is useful for AI developer because they can hide their all features, important attributes, and plus it is very useful for the end user because end user now know how he can flip the prediction of model in his or her favor. So let's define counterfactual explanations. Counterfactual explanations can be defined as what features need to be changed and by how much to flip the model predictions. So we are concerned with to know about what features we can change by how much amount so that we can reverse the model predictions from unfavorable outcome to favorable outcome. So normally we are concerned with getting favorable outcome. For example, if loan is rejected, we are concerned that how what changes I should made in my features so that my loan get approved. So from unfavorable outcome to favorable outcome. Same way, if a person has high chance of stroke, in this case, the favorable outcome is getting no stroke. So person will be interested to know that what changes he should made in his features so that he can flip the predictions. So in this particular case, these type of explanations will be very useful. I'm referring this particular slide from a tutorial on explaining machine learning by Professor Hema Samir Julius from AAAI 21 tutorial on explainable machine learning. Counterfactual explanations provide the possibility to change the situation as I have discussed, and it give the opportunity for the person to actually know what he can do to avoid the stroke, and it is also considered as contrastive explanations. In simple words, it is the smallest change in the input features that change the prediction to another predefined output. Now let's consider this with an example. For example, we can provide counterfactual explanation to this end user who has very high chances of stroke, that right now your prediction is 90% stroke. And if you would decrease your body mass index to 25, the predictions will be 70% no stroke. So in this example, it is important to understand that this is the counterfactual which we are generating. And we are suggesting that if you can decrease your body mass index to 25, the prediction will be no stroke. So here we are providing the detail about the feature which he need to change in order to flip the output. So at present, the output is stroke. In order to flip it to no stroke, he need to make this minimum change in one of his attribute. So that type of explanations, now you can understand that this type of explanation may be more useful to the end user as compared to providing the reason that why my model is predicting 90% stroke by giving reason that your age is 70, that's why it is giving you stroke. So person already know that he has 78. So that type of explanation may not be useful. But if we able to say that, okay, you can flip this by reducing your body mass index to 25, that will be very positive for the end user, and it will be more satisfying and more explainable. So this is the basic idea of counterfactual, that we can generate these kind of counterfactuals without exposing our black box. So I want to make it clear at this point that yes, we are also trying to achieve one another important objective, that we are actually not exposing our full AI model to the end user, while Lime and SHAP actually exposing the model in terms of feature importance. We are directly providing the details about the keywords, we are directly providing the details about the important features, but here we are just hiding everything, and we are only pinpointing those minimum features that need to be changed by the end user in order to flip the output in a desired outcome. So for example, at present, this person has high chance of stroke, and these are its attribute. So we can say that if you can change your body mass index from this to this, then you will able to change the prediction from stroke to no stroke. And this is basically considered as counterfactual explanations. So first time this counterfactual explanation was given by Wachter et al. In 2017. So they proposed a very important benchmark paper, which titled as Counterfactual Explanations Without Opening the Black Box, Automated Decisions and the GDPR. And in this paper, they actually define the whole procedure to generate counterfactuals. And this is considered as the beginning point for this research. And later on, a lot more variants of this approach has come up. Some identified the problem in this system and they try to improve it. So we will start our discussion from this base paper. And at this point, it is also important to understand that this counterfactual explanation is actually inspired by GAN, Generative Adversarial Network. You know that in GAN, we actually try to play with our input data and we try to generate some new data instances that resemble with our training data. And by using GAN, we can generate synthetic data which appear as same as real data. For example, this one very common application case study of GAN where system has generated images of the people that are not existent. These are not the real people. These are the images which are created by the machines and they just appear like real people, but actually these people don't exist. So these are the images which are generated by GAN. So GAN is actually worked by adding some noise into the input feature so that it can change the output. So in order to understand this, let us consider this example. This will explain you, this will make it clear that how counterfactual is actually working. So here we have on the left side a input image of panda, and you can see that the model is making prediction here as panda with 57% confidence that yes, this is a panda and this is the prediction made by model. So in order to reverse the output or in order to flip the output, we are adding little noise to this particular image that will actually change some pixel values. And if we add this little noise into the input image, the model is now making prediction as given. So actually the prediction of the model has been changed due to this adding little noise into the input image, and we are able to flip the outcome by adding this adversarial noise into the input model. So this same concept can be used in our counterfactual explanations, where we want to make smallest change in the input feature that changes the prediction to another output. So here we also want something similar like this, that we want to make some small changes in one of the features. Here feature are actually pixels and we are making changes in the pixel value. But in this case, we want to make changes in our input features like body mass index, age, or so on. And on that basis, we wish to make changes in the prediction to other desirable output. Let us consider this situation by considering AI-based loan approval rejection system. And let's suppose that the loan has been rejected by our AI system. Now, in this particular situation, of course, this person is concerned to know that why his loan has been rejected. And he is also concerned to know what action should I take so that my loan can be approved. So he wants to know what action should he take so that his loan can be approved, because at present it is rejected. So in this case, again, this situation is depicted very well by Hema et al. In this tutorial on explainable AI. So here you can see that the loan application has been rejected by our predicted model. And in this case, counterfactual generation algorithm can proved as a solution, where this counterfactual generation algorithm is actually query this black box model and it will generate some recourse or counterfactuals for this applicant. And the system can say that, okay, increase your salary by 50K and pay your credit card bills on time for next 3 months so that your loan can be approved. So this type of counterfactuals or recourse can be generated by our algorithms. So in order to explain it further, let us consider this is our model, and this is decision boundary, which is actually classifying it into two classes. One class is considered as negative and another is positive. You can consider negative as loan rejected and positive is, let's suppose, loan approved. Here we have X instance which fall in negative class, means his loan has been rejected. Now we want to know what minimum changes we should made in our input feature so that we can move from negative class to positive class. And you can see that there are more than one possible way. You can add A into one of the feature, or you can add B into another feature. So this way, there are more than one way to change the prediction from negative to positive. So most of our counterfactual explanation is will be useful to generate all possible explanations, and this point actually help us to understand that actually we will be generating more than one counterfactual, because more than one counterfactuals are possible, and we will provide a list of all possible counterfactuals, and then we leave it to the end user to pick most suitable counterfactuals based on his or her choice. So here you can see that at present original class is loan rejected. We wish to move to a desired class, loan approved. This is our decision boundary, and we are generating two suggestions. First is increase income by 10,000 US dollar, your loan will be approved, or increase income by 5,000 with one more year, with one plus 1 year of more credit history, then your loan can be approved. So these two counterfactuals can be given to the user. And this is the example which I have taken from GitHub page of DICE. DICE is actually one of the library which implement all these algorithms which we are going to discuss today. And this is the GitHub page. We will also visit this page in the end to understand that what are different notebooks available on this page and how we can apply DICE over different data sets to generate counterfactual explanations. This particular work is based on Ramarvind et al. And they have maintained a very good GitHub repository to explain this counterfactual explanations. And as I have already told you that it is actually generating a lot of counterfactuals. Now the question is, what is the best counterfactuals? And actually there is no best, both are valid counterfactuals. So that's why most of the system or algorithm make a list of all possible counterfactuals and provide all this list to the end user and leave it to end user to decide which of the counterfactuals to choose to act upon. And that's why this is also called as Rashomon effect. So this is the basics working principle, that yes, we are, our algorithm is actually looking for input attributes to make minimum changes on that so that it can shift the outcome to a desired class. And this gives us two advantage for end user. So let's conclude it. For end user, we are generating the counterfactuals that through these, by following these steps, he can change the predictions to desirable class. And it is also very beneficial for AI developer, because now they can actually, now there is no need to expose their full AI model to end user to tell that to generate explanations. So due to these reasons, a lot of people are working in counterfactual explanations area to generate explanations. If you have any question at this point, you can ask me. Yes. Okay, good. So now we will discuss in detail about its mathematical modeling. So basically, its mathematical modeling is quite simple. It is not hard as compared to SHAP. You know that in last session, we spent a lot of time to understand its mathematical formulation, but it is quite intuitive in this case. And we will discuss all the developments in this research area by following the work of multiple researcher in this, by starting from original work in 2017-18, and then we will see all the other work of the researcher to improve on this counterfactual explanations. So as I have already discussed in this case, we are actually making the smallest change in the input feature to change the output to favorable condition, and we are adding noise in this case, and this is considered as adversarial noise. So we are inspired by this theory, and here we are actually using adversary noise. We are actually making changes in the feature values so that we can flip the output to desirable model. Yes, so I want everyone to focus on this equation because this is the mathematical modeling of counterfactual explanations, which is given by Worcester et al. In 2018 in their first paper. So here you can easily understand that here we have a black box which is represented by a predicted model as F. And if I apply this black box model on attribute X, then it is producing an output Y. So here you can consider this panda as X. This is the original data input. So if I apply this black box model over this, my output is Y. Now, what I want to flip this output to Y dash. And in order to get this flipped output or desirable output, I need to find out the value of X prime. So I want to change the output to Y prime, which is the desirable outcome. And in order to achieve this, I need to find out the value of X prime. So you can see that here I need to apply my predicted model on X prime so that it can produce desirable outcome. So here we have now two input. This is X and this is now considered as X prime, and you can see that X and X prime are close to each other. Both we are still able to achieve we are still able to achieve panda image as the final outcome, but we have added little noise into this. So this is the change in the input feature which we have added, and this actually make changes in the input value from X to X prime. So I hope that now you can understand that this is the original instance, which is X. We want to find out its corresponding counterfactuals, which is X prime. And we want that the distance between X and X prime should be minimum. So we want that the distance between X and X prime should be minimum. They should be as close as possible. But the only condition is that we want to achieve change in the flip in the output to desirable outcome. So mathematically, this is considered as an optimization problem, and our objective is to find out the value of X prime, which is actually a counterfactual sample that can change the prediction of our black box model to target Y class. So here the objective is to find this X prime, and this X prime is my counterfactual sample, and it should be as close to my original instance. So this is the purpose, to find fx dash that can change the prediction to desirable class. Distance function d is minimized so that the distance between x and x prime should be minimum. So this function make it sure that we stay as close as possible to the original output. In our case, we want to have panda on the image, but aim to get different prediction of our black box model. So I have picked all these slides from this DeepFinder explainable AI explained presentation. So you can see that here this is our objective. And if anyone have any doubt in this mathematical modeling, you can ask me any question.
Does the distance metric have to be convex or something like this?
Yeah. So now, of course, there is a choice of distance metric. I have one note on this. Actually, they have used Manhattan distance originally in their paper to find out the distance between x and x prime, and we can choose any distance metric like Manhattan or Euclidean distance. So we have actually to minimize it, and we can play with this distance metric to generate different kind of counterfactuals. But originally they use Manhattan distance in their original paper. Yeah. Okay, so here now let's discuss how we can generate actually these kind of counterfactuals. The most commonly used approach is just random sampling. This is, you can consider it as a brute force, where we randomly change one feature and to check that whether what will be the output. For example, here I have keep everything same, but only changing one input feature, that is body mass index. So still we have reduced the body mass index from 34 to 32, but still the output is stroke. We reduce it to 29, still the output is stroke. Let's suppose at 22 we able to achieve it stroke to no stroke. So this way we can generate a counterfactual that if you can reduce your body mass index to 22, then you can move to desirable class. So this is considered as a brute force approach, and by doing this many times we can generate counterfactual explanations. And can you tell me, this brute force approach is model agnostic or model specific? Anybody? This is model specific or model agnostic?
Agnostic.
Yeah, of course. So the advantage of using this random sampling or brute force approach is that this is model agnostic, but of course it is not changing the feature more intelligently. But we have some other alternatives which use model internals to apply feature changes more intelligently. But of course, this will make our algorithm model specific. So you will see in the DICE library that yes, you can. We have multiple options to generate these counterfactuals for model agnostic or for model specific cases. But here random sampling is the basic approach, and it is a model agnostic, which is simple a brute force approach. So the original work is actually based on this, which is first provide this information in 2018, and this is the details which they have provided. And yeah, so this is the question. The choice of distance metric dictate what kind of counterfactuals we are chosen, and Wajester et al. Actually they use normalized Manhattan distance. So yes, we have to choose some kind of distance metric, and this way we will generate counterfactuals. Okay, so let me open this paper for you. Actually, I have downloaded this. Yeah. So this is the original paper which I'm talking about, counterfactual explanations without opening the black box. It has 52 pages, and this is a quite detailed document. I will share this paper with you so that you can read it and you can see what type of contents or what type of data sets they are talking about. So actually in this paper, they are verifying their model on LSAT dataset. Here in LSAT dataset, you can see that we are actually predicting the students' first year average grade. So they have developed a black box model which can predict first year average grade of the students on the basis of their race, on the basis of their grade point average, and on the basis of their law school entrance exam score. Actually, it is a law school data set. So they considered it these three different important parameters. And on the basis, they are actually making predictions on the average grade. And they know that this data set is actually, exhibit biased against black people. So it is known that this data set is biased against black people. And through this paper, they generate counterfactuals, which are actually suggesting the same thing to prove their point that yes, the data set is biased against black people because some of the counterfactuals are actually suggesting towards this. So these are 5 counterfactuals which are generated by their model. They have mentioned this in their paper. So in this, you can see that you can focus on counterfactual explanation generated at third and fourth. So it stated that if your LSAT was 33.4 and you were white, then you would have average predicted score 0. Or if this, and if you are white, then your average predicted score is 0. So you can clearly see that it is actually checking the race of the person, and on that basis it is generating counterfactual explanation. So that way actually they justify that their model is working properly. But this leads to another problem. So here, try to understand that point. Here, actually, we are generating counterfactual explanations on which person can act upon. So let's suppose if I am generating a counterfactual explanation that, okay, if you change at present you are male and you have very high chances of stroke. So if you can change your gender to female, then the chances will be low. You can change the predictions from stroke to no stroke. So of course, these kind of counterfactual make no sense, because there are some kind of features which are not feasible to act upon, and of course, one cannot simply change the race, change their race in order to flip the outcome. So this particular problem is identified by Uston et al. In their paper in 2019, and they checked that okay, we are getting counterfactual explanations, but here we are using those features which are not feasible to act upon. So our model should generate counterfactuals by considering only those features which are feasible. For example, changing age is not possible, changing gender is not possible, or changing race is not possible. So we should not consider these kind of attributes during generating counterfactuals. So this point is picked up by Uston et al. In their paper 2019, and they actually modified this particular mathematical equation by introducing two new terms. So here you can clearly see these two new terms. Can anyone explain me the importance of this? Why we are doing this? What will be the significance of this? Can you pick up that point? Yeah, you can unmute yourself, and if anyone can explain what is the significance of this in this situation. So actually, Uston et al. Is proposing feasible and least cost counterfactuals. So here our counterfactual is X prime, but you can see that here X prime is pick up from a subset, and this subset will be a combination or set of feasible counterfactuals or set of feasible features which we can change. So here we are just imposing two new constraints on our model, that X prime should be pick up from feasible counterfactuals, and normally these feasible counterfactuals is input by the end user. For example, change to race, gender are not possible. So here we are adding a constraint that this counterfactual should be from set of feasible counterfactuals. And there is one more difference. Earlier they were using simple distance metric, but here in the modified version, they have changed it to a cost function, and cost is considered as to capture how hard is to go from X to X prime. So it is also important to understand that how hard to change the value of a particular features. Distance may not be only sufficient. So they propose some strategy to calculate the cost to change the value from X to X prime. And the important thing to note that they suggest that only pick feasible counterfactuals. We have to ignore those attributes which are not important. And normally this can be mentioned by end user during implementation of counterfactuals algorithms. So they have explained that yes, we can generate counterfactuals like this way, and all these are feasible counterfactuals. You can see that in order to get the loan approved, the suggestion is to reduce the number of credit cards from 5 to 3. This is the actionable or feasible counterfactuals. and another counterfactual is to reduce the current debit from 3250 to 1000. And one possible counterfactual is to open a saving account and retirement account. So if you have these two accounts in the bank, then again the loan will be approved. So these type of counterfactuals are possible, and our model, as I have already told you, that the model will usually make all possible counterfactuals to the end user, and end user can pick any of the recommendation and can act upon it. So this is Ustan et al., which make it they make modification to make it clear that our counterfactuals should be based on feasible features. It should not be based on non-feasible features like race, gender, and so on. If you have any doubt up to this point, you can ask me any question.
So the cost function, can it be asymmetric?
Pardon?
Can the cost function be asymmetric? Is the going from x to x prime is the same as going from x prime to x, or is not necessarily the case?
It will not necessarily be same, because you can think that here we are actually reducing the debt from this to this. So increasing debt is different from decreasing the debt. So it may not be same. Reverse is it will be asymmetric, I suppose, because you have to work to reduce it, and reverse will not make that particular sense, because it is easy to increase the value particular in these situations. It will be asymmetric actually. Okay, so this actually leads to another very interesting situation. I like that situation. So this again depicted by very well explained by Hema et al. In their tutorial. So actually in this situation, we have reduced the debt. So let's suppose that person act upon this advice. So his loan has been rejected, and our recourse was to reduce the current debt from this to this. So let's suppose after 1 year, that person came, and at this point now his current debt has been reduced to 1000, and now he said that, okay, give me loan now because I have acted upon your advice, and now my current debit is reduced to 1000. But now our model is saying something different. Now our model is saying, okay, your age is increased by 1 year and the recourse is no longer valid. Sorry. So it explained a very tricky situation, and this has been explained by Mahajan et al. In their paper in 2019. So this actually explain a situation. So in order to solve it, can anybody tell me why this occur and how we have to solve this problem? So what strategy we should follow and why this particular problem occurs? Which particular important point we have ignored?
Interaction between variables.
Yeah, so you are true. So yes, you are correct that importance to account, we have not considered feature interactions while generating these counterfactuals. So this is also important, and Mahajan et al. In 2019 suggested that yes, we have ignored the feature interactions. So that's why this particular problem occur. So the question is how we can include those feature interactions. So they have mentioned something called as causal feasible counterfactuals. So here they are suggesting to use causal graph. So actually they are generating they are storing a graph which carry the interactions among attributes, and they are maintaining it called as structural causal model to define new distance metric. And based on the interaction captured by that graph, which carry causal interactions, so they're able to refine our predictions, and they're able to consider interaction among those attributes. So this is the latest development in counterfactual explanations, and by using this causal model, they're able to capture the feature interactions, and this is mentioned in their paper in 2019, Mahajan et al. So this give us the clear idea about the development in this particular research area, and of course, a lot of people are working in this area to improve the research in this directions. So what we have just concluded, I have considered three possible cases that originally we are able to generate a simple distance metric by using this formula, so that x and x prime should be close to each other. But we ignore that some of the features may be not feasible to change or to act upon. So this particular problem is identified by Uston et al. In their paper 2019. They proposed the solution that x prime should be picked up from subset of feasible features, so that we can generate feasible counterfactuals. And this feasible features usually be input by the end user. And they also define another metric cost, which is used to capture how hard is to move from x to x prime instead of simply considering the distance. So then they make reasonable counterfactuals. But this lead us to another situation, because here we have ignored the interactions among the attributes, because this is a very tricky situation. That person actually achieved the desirable act upon the desirable counterfactual, but still he's not able to get the loan because age is increased by 1 year, and we have ignored that during generating counterfactuals. So they suggested that to use a model called as causal feasible counterfactuals, and they actually creating a graph to store the interaction among those attributes, and they using this graph structure to make recommendation or to capture the feature interactions. So can you tell me at this point that these counterfactuals are actually local or global? What you feel at this point? So counterfactuals are local or global? What we have discussed based on the discussion which we have so far. Anybody?
No.
Yeah, of course, they are local, because we are considering one particular input and then we are acting upon that particular instance. So all these are local counterfactuals. So people are also working on to generating global counterfactuals, which actually reflect the whole model. So can anybody give a thought that what will be the use of global counterfactuals? Because counterfactuals actually are user specific. So we are generating counterfactual for a particular user, that okay, if you change this particular attribute, you will able to get the loan, or if you able to reduce it, you will be moved from stroke to no stroke. So but what will be the significance for generating global counterfactuals? Can you consider any example or any use of generating global counterfactuals? Anybody? You can think for a few seconds.
You can act with policies with that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
for example, if you want to have a law that is going to somehow eradicate racial differences, then you can use this kind of.
Yes, yes. So Christos, you are correct. Yeah, it is used for policy making, and I have one example to explain this point. So let's suppose here we are considering some reinforcement agency, which is actually looking at overall AI model to check that whether our AI models are fair enough or not, or do we have any racial or gender subgroups in our model, or do we have some biases towards particular demographic. So in order to check that, they in that particular situation, global counterfactuals may be useful. For example, here we are considering instead of single attribute, single instance, we are considering all attributes. Sorry, instead of considering single instance, we are considering all the instances where loan has been denied, and then we are generating counterfactuals for all these instances. So we are aggregating local instances to generate global counterfactuals. And then at global counterfactual level, we can check that whether my model is actually has some bias or not. For example, in this particular example, you can see that these are subgroup descriptor, that if your race is Caucasian or gender is male, then you need to do these particular actions in order to let's suppose this is about income data set. So in order to increase the income, you need to act upon these particular counterfactuals. So this is for Caucasian people on the basis of gender male. This is for Caucasian on female, and this is for non-Caucasian people. So of course, from this particular counterfactuals, you can see that here we are, in case of non-Caucasian, we are telling that, just give me a minute. Yeah, so in this case, we are asking him to make these two changes. So he has to make two changes in the attribute. If that person is non-Caucasian, that he need to change the property and also job. But if it is a Caucasian female, you can see that married is no, property no. So there is only one. He need to act upon only on the one feature. So you can see that it is more hard for non-Caucasian people to change, to flip the outcome in a desired way as compared to Caucasian people. So this indicates a biasness in our model. And even we can check that how many counterfactuals or how many changes need to be for gender male, or how many changes we are recommended for female. So that way we can also detect the gender biases. So this type of information may be useful for enforcement agencies. And of course, this model can identify the bias, and of course, it requires certain demography to change a lot more features than others. So this way we can identify or to look upon this particular biasness in our model. So this particular work is just mentioned by, this approach is just mentioned by Rawal et al. In 2020. This is one of the latest work in this area, where people are working to generate global explanations by merging local subgroup explanations for creating customizable counterfactuals. So this is all about the mathematical modeling of counterfactuals. And now in next part of this session, we will be demonstrating a algorithm. Of course, we will be working on DICE, which is one of the important library which contain all the desirable functions which we have just discussed. It can generate feasible counterfactuals, and we will see its demonstration on Stoke dataset. If anybody have any question up to this point, you can ask me.
So by using global counterfactuals, aren't we revealing the secret sauce of our model that we wanted to avoid in first place?
Yeah, of course, we are generating yes, of course, it is actually revealing the model, but the underlying principle of counterfactual is that these are the minimum changes which are required in the feature. So anyway, if you have 10 features or 20 features, it will always be providing the minimal which we need to expose. So this is still better as compared to Lime and SHAP, because its underlying principle is same. We are just generating minimal changes. We are providing minimal changes in the feature that need to be acted upon. So yes. So let's break for 2 minutes, and then we will start demonstration of SHAP. You are already familiar with our code, and we are going to apply today counterfactual explanations on our Stoke dataset to understand that how counterfactuals are generated. And then in the end, we will have informal quiz. So I will take maybe 20 minutes to explain counterfactual to demonstrate this code, and then we will have a quiz in the end. So now we can wait, break for 2 minutes, and then we will start. Thank you. So let's start with our discussion. So here you are already familiar with this stroke, no stroke data set. This is the code for counterfactuals. And you can see that here we are applying counterfactuals on a black box random forest, which is an ensembler. And this is the simple code which we have already used in SHAP also. So let's walk through this code and execute it. So here in first step, we are simply importing our desirable libraries. We are importing data loader from our utilities, a random forest classifier as an ensembler, and F1 score and accuracy score from matrix. So we have executed it. So then we are creating an object of data loader. Here we are loading the data set. It means our CSV file has been loaded. Then we are performing pre-processing. You know that here we are performing actually handling the categorical attribute. We are also performing train test. We are also ignoring our ID attribute. Then we are performing train test split. Since our data set was imbalanced, so we are balancing it by using oversampling. So you can see this is our data set. These are the records in our training and these are the record in our testing. So then we are building random forest by creating its object. We are fitting random forest. We are making predictions on the random forest, and then we are simply displaying its accuracy and F1 score. So yes, we have obtained accuracy for random forest, and this is its F1 score. So you already familiar that we have also performed the same step in case of SHAP, but now we are going to generate counterfactuals for this black box model by using DICE. So let's understand its code. For this, you need to install DICE-ML library. So you can use pip install command. I have already installed it. So once you installed it, you can import it by using statement DICE_ML. So here I have imported the desirable library. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So now in this, we have actually two important components in this library. One, we have to build the data. One, we have to specify the data set, and second, we have to specify the model first. So it has two important methods. One is data, which is used to specify input data for which we are working on. So you can see that here we are performing, we are passing all the data from our data loader in the form of data frame to this method. So we are specifying the data on which we have to work, and our data is available in this data frame now. Then we are specifying a perturbation strategy. So here we are specifying important continuous features. So because normally all the counterfactuals are based on continuous features, so we are specifying those attributes which contain continuous values, like we have age as a continuous value, we have body mass index, we have average glucose level. So we are specifying those feature values which are continuous, and then we are specifying our class attribute, that outcome attribute, outcome name is stroke. This is the class attribute. So we are specifying information about our data in this first part. So we are specifying our data, we are specifying our continuous feature for generating perturbations, and then we are also specifying our class attribute. So this way data has been specified. Then in second step, we have to specify the model. So for example, we are working on random forest. So in this model, we are specifying the model, that is RF. You can see here it is implemented in RF variable. So we are specifying our model as random forest. And then we have to specify that how we have implemented it. So we have implemented a random forest by using sklearn. Of course, you can use PyTorch, you can use TensorFlow. So based on that, we have to specify our backend. And in our example, our backend is sklearn. So we have specified our model. So you can see that in first part, we are specifying the data. In second part, we are specifying the model. Now in actual generation of counterfactuals, we have to specify both the things. We are storing the data in data underscore dice. We are storing the model in RF underscore dice. So you can see that during creation of explainer, we are using a method dice, and in this we are specifying data underscore dice, which carry the detail about data set, RF underscore dice, which carry the detail about our model. And then we are suggesting the strategy to generate counterfactuals. As we have discussed, our strategy can be model agnostic or our strategy can be model specific. And in case of model agnostic, we already learned that we have a random sampling, which is a model agnostic approach. So that's why here we are specifying method as random to indicate that we are generating counterfactuals by using model agnostic approach, which is a random. But otherwise, we can also specify some, you can say, model specific approaches like genetic algorithm, KD trees, or neural networks. So all these details are available in DICE library. I will explain that after this particular demonstration, that what are other possibilities in this. But at this point, it is very important to note that yes, we are using DICE to generate explainer. And here we are specifying our data, here we are specifying our model, and here we are specifying our strategy. So this is very simple way to set up DICE to generate our explanation. So we are not actually generating anything at this point. We are just setting up our explainer to generate explanations, but we have not generated anything at this point. So let's execute this. So yes, the statement has been successfully executed. So now our model is ready to generate explanations. So you can see in first step, we are specifying our input data point. So at this, I am simply specifying first instance. You can play with this value. So at present, I am generating explanation for first record. And then I am using explainer, which I have already created in this step to generate counterfactuals. So here it has a method generate counterfactuals, in which we are specifying our input data points, which is first record in this case. Then we are mentioning that total counterfactuals that we, as I have already told you, that it will generate multiple counterfactuals. So we can control the number. In this case, it will be generating 3 counterfactuals. And then we are specifying desirable class. So in this is our binary classifier. So we are simply asking it to flip the output. So if it is 0, it will flip it to 1. If it is 1, already 1, it will be flip it to 0. So we are specifying desirable class as opposite. But if we have multiple classes, we can specify our class that, okay, we want this particular class in the output. So this way we are generating 3 counterfactuals, and finally this is stored in this CF, and then we are using its method visualize as data frame to show the counterfactuals in the form of data frame. So it will display a data frame which carry all the counterfactuals explanations. So this is a simple code to generate explanations or to generate counterfactuals. So in first step, we are passing our instance, that is first record. Then we are generating counterfactuals by specifying our input data point, number of counterfactuals are required, and desirable class. In this case, it is just opposite because it is a binary. And finally, it will be generating counterfactual explanations in the form of data frames. So let's execute it. So yes, we got our output. So this is the output which is generated by our model. So let's understand this. So this is the selected instance whose original predicted class is 0, and these are its attribute, and you can see that the final class is stroke. So actually we are flipping it to from no stroke to stroke in this case. So new outcome is 1. So in order to move from no stroke to stroke, we are recommending 3 counterfactuals, and you can see that this will only shows the values which need to be changed by that particular person. So most of the values are null because we will only generating minimal changes which are recommended by our model. Yeah, so our model is recommending that to change average glucose level in this case, so that it can change the predictions from no stroke to stroke. Let's do this for some more instances to get clear idea. So now I am generating it for instance number 2. Yes. Yeah. So this is more informative. So you can see here our original class is again 0. We are switching it to 1. And these are the counterfactuals which are generated by our model. So if you look at first counterfactuals, then it is recommending to change this work type children. It is also recommending to change the age to 80, hypertension to 1. In order to, it's important to note that we here our predicted class is 1. So hypertension to 1, average glucose level to this, increase the average glucose level so that the predicted class can be 1. And in this second, you can see that average glucose level is this, hypertension is this, age is 71. But in this case, we are generating a recommendation for work type self-employed. And we are also recommending to change the gender. And in this case, again, we are recommending to change gender, work job type. So there are 3-4 attributes which we are recommending to change in order to switch to no stroke to stroke. So my idea at this point is that you can understand that yes, we are recommending some of the features which are non-feasible. For example, we are suggesting to change gender, and we are also suggesting to change age also in one of the previous counterfactuals. Yeah, you can see that we are also recommending to change age, which are non-feasible features. So we have some variants of this improvements in this, which are already available in this. So here you can see that we can pass some parameters to this explainer to indicate features to vary. So as I have already told you that most of the time end user will supply the features that need to be changed. So here you can see end user is can specify all these features in this particular part, that yes, features to vary are average glucose level, body mass index, and smoking status, because these are the attributes on which he or she can act upon. So end user is specifying all these features. And even if you can further see, there are some of the values, or there are some of the ranges that may be non-feasible to change. For example, if we are asking to change body mass index to 1, or we are asking change the body mass index to 20, that may not be feasible to achieve. So we can specify permitted range also, that okay, the body mass index range, permitted body mass index range is 18 to 35, that generate counterfactual explanations by keeping body mass index in this range and average glucose level between this to this. Because if we are generating counterfactual explanation that to change average glucose level to 10, which may not be possible to achieve, so again it is non-feasible. So it is not only about the attribute, it is also about the value of the attribute, which make a counterfactual feasible or non-feasible. So I hope that you will appreciate that point, that we are not only specifying the attributes, we are also able to specify the range of those attributes to make it actually feasible. Because if we are recommending to reduce the body mass index to 5, which is may not possible to achieve, so that will again non-feasible. Still it is based on body mass index, or still it is based on average glucose level. So by specifying permitted range, our counterfactual will be very realistic. So here you can see we can pass all these parameters during generation of explanations or counterfactuals. So here we are specifying our input data points. We are again specifying our total counterfactuals which need to be generated. We are also specifying our desirable class. And yes, we are specifying our permitted range, and we are also specifying features to value. So I hope that you will appreciate this particular point. Yes, this is very flexible library which has a lot of capabilities to specify permitted features as well as permitted ranges. And then again, we are displaying data frame counterfactuals in the form of data frame. So let's execute this. So here we have actually restricted a lot of things. So for our selected record, it say that no counterfactual found for this. So let's change it for another instance so that we can see some realistic explanations. So this is our original 1 to for first. Here we are specifying. Yeah, so here we are specifying, you can see body mass index changed to 2.1. So this is first. Now I am restricting it to specific range, and I am also restricting it to change only few mentioned attribute, that is 3 attributes. So let's generate these. Again, no counterfactuals. 0 to 1. Yes. So now we are able to obtain it. So you can see that there is no mention of counterfactuals, any other attributes. We are only specifying the change in glucose level, and through this way we are able to achieve our desirable class, and this is within the mentioned range. So this way we are actually restricting the attributes and their ranges. And of course you can play with this, because you see that in some of the cases system is not able to generate counterfactuals, so we can add some more features, or you can increase the range, permitted range, so that it can work for more number of attribute. But the intuition is clear that the library is capable enough to specify all these things. So this is original counterfactuals which are generated. So here we are recommending the changes in age, but when we specify limited, no counterfactuals are found. So this is the point which I want to explain, that we can specify our attributes and also we can specify our ranges, and this is a very beautiful code which you can act upon, and you can use it in any other example. If you have any question, you can ask me point in this code. Yes. Yeah. So now I want to tell you this particular resource I am sharing on your chat box. So I request everyone to visit this page. This is very informative page on DICE, and it carries the basic principle of DICE. I hope you can see my screen. And here it provides the details how to install dice, how to work on this, and it also carry the code to generate different kind of explanations. So let's see here. So here it is about increasing the age. This is original outcome as 0, new outcome is 1, and in order to achieve this new outcome, it is generating counterfactuals like this way, that if you can change your education to master, occupation to white collar, if you can increase your hour per week to 51 from 45, then you can increase your income. So you can see that these are very useful counterfactual explanations, and it is generating 4 counterfactual explanation in this case. And I also like to visit these pages. So I request you to visit these pages. This is very informative notebook explaining multi-class classifier and regressor, because we have just mentioned about a binary classifier. So naturally you have question in mind that in case of multi-class classifier, how we have to specify it. And again, in case of regressor, how we can generate counterfactual explanation. So this is very useful notebook, which provides the idea to write the code. I want to focus you on some of the important points. So here we are working on IRIS dataset. So on IRIS dataset, we are generating the counterfactuals. And this is important point which I want to focus here. So here you can see that we are defining our desirable class. So this is important because earlier we are just flipping, we are just mentioning opposite. But in case of multiple class, we have a attribute desire underscore class, where we can specify directly as 2, 3, or 4. And again, you can pass a single instance or you can pass multiple instances to generate explanations. So this is important point. I want to make everyone to note that in case of multi-class classifier, you can specify desirable class in this way. An important point to note in case of regression, that we are predicting some continuous number, then how we can specify this. Yeah, so this is important point. Let's please focus here. So here we are specifying desirable range. So let's suppose we are predicting the salary of the person. So we can specify, in case of regression, we are predicting a value. So we can specify the range of value, that okay, my model is predicting the salary of the person, but if I want to get a salary, let's suppose more than 20,000 shekel, then what action need to be changed? So I can specify desirable range in a regression problem. So it will generate all the counterfactuals in order to keep the output in this desirable range. So this is very useful. You can play with this desirable range, that 40 to 50 or 30 to 45. So this way it can generate multiple counterfactuals, as you mentioned 2 in this case, as you mentioned 4 in this case. So this is very important notebook. So I request you to please visit this code so that you can get an idea that how it is working. And as we have already discussed that sometime our global, we are also interested in local and global features, so we can use this. Yeah, and important point to note that in case of model agnostic, we have to specify randomized sampling, but we can also use genetic algorithm. We can specify counter KD trees, and there are some work on white boxes, which are actually gradient based method. So these notebooks are provided here, and you can explore these courses, these notebooks to work on different kind of situations. So this is a very useful resource. to experiment to generate counterfactuals in multiple situations. So this is all about from my side, and if you have any question or point in your mind, you can unmute yourself and can discuss it.
So is this problem similar to the problem finding the optimal hyperparameters?
It is not like that. Actually, here we are simply generating those minimal attribute changes which are required to change the outcome to desirable class. So model will be trained just to provide us explanations in terms of information about the features that need to be changed. And it is using a randomized approach to generate it. So I don't think it is similar to that. Okay, so now let's have a quick informal quiz. Today we are doing it on Mentimeter. So I request everyone, we have 23. I request everyone to please join this informal quiz. For this, you need to open this menti.com. You can click on this link directly, or you can use this code to join it. I will share the base paper with you also on your WhatsApp, so you can explore that also. And now we have two important objectives of this course. I hope we will able to wind up in next two sessions. In next session, we will discuss a what if tool, which is actually again a way to generate counterfactuals. This what if tool is from Google, which is very useful to analyze particular image data set, because what we have just discussed, it is based on tabular data. But in case of image data, if we want to look upon the counterfactuals, then that particular tool will be very useful. So I will be demonstrating that tool in the next session, and I hope that we will able to wind up that session within 1 hour. And then our last session will be on LRP. In this LRP, we will be discussing on mathematical modeling of LRP, and also on implementation or demonstration of LRP. LRP is actually used to generate explanations on image data set. So with this, we will able to complete this course. And I will also request you to please share your feedback about this course so that we can improve further on this. And yeah, your feedback is very important for us. So you can share it on our WhatsApp group. So let's start with the quiz. So if you have not joined, please quickly join it. We will be starting within 30 seconds. Okay, so let's start it. Yeah, the counterfactual is x prime, and let's see the leaderboard. Asaf is on number 1. Yes, it should be from all possible feasible features. Noga is on number 1 now. So actually it is about interdependence. So interdependence is the good way, better word to explain it. Second last question. Oh, sorry. So actually it is dice underscore ml. In the code, you can see that we are importing dice underscore ml. So last question. Yes, we can specify the range of permitted values as we have just mentioned. So this is our final score. Guy, congratulations. So can you unmute yourself to introduce yourself to all of us?
Hi, I've already introduced myself. I'm an LSE student from Tel Aviv.
So you are doing which